Now, healing is not about trying harder. It's about understanding what was disrupted and restoring order where there was once chaos because trauma disrupts rhythm, it disrupts regulation, it disrupts our sense of timing, safety, and trust. So, healing is not force. It's reestablishing what the system lost, which is steadiness, predictability, and choice. And when order is restored, the nervous system no longer has to stay on guard. And when the system can rest, change will happen naturally.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lisa L. Yeomans, and welcome to the Straight Outta Trauma series. What you're about to step into isn't just a discussion, it's deliverance. I want you to know this is for you. The one who cried in silence, the one who smiled through pain, the one still asking, will I ever be whole? This is a safe space for healing, for truth, and for permission to breathe again. So exhale, lean in, and let's begin straight out of trauma.
Let's pause for a moment and talk this through. And I want to walk through something with you because it's often misunderstood as it relates to trauma. And this misunderstanding can lead many people to carry blame that doesn't even belong to them. Now, this isn't about reliving trauma or labeling you, it's about understanding what happens in the nervous system and why healing requires safety and not pressure. So now what I'm about to say may challenge how you've been viewing yourself, how you've been feeling about yourself, thinking of yourself. And that is this, that trauma is not a character flaw. It is not a lack of discipline. It is not weakness. It is not a failure of faith. Trauma at its core is a disruption. It's a disruption to the nervous system, a disruption to identity, a disruption to regulation, and often how we may interpret our own behavior. It's also a disruption to reality. And when you understand that, not just intellectually, but in your body, everything changes because now you're no longer asking what's wrong with me. You're asking what happened to my system. So now many people are walking around, they're blaming themselves for things that don't have anything to do with character or issues with their character or moral issues. Never had anything to do with that. You can call it procrastination, inconsistency, overthinking. You can even call it burnout. So let's say, for example, you know what needs to be done. You want to do it, but when it comes time for you to move forward in that thing, something happens within you, you hesitate, you become stagnant, you become stuck. And instead of asking why your system paused, you tell yourself that you're lazy, you're unmotivated, you're broken, you don't deserve it. But what you're often experiencing is a nervous system that learned how to survive and hasn't yet learned that it's safe to function differently. Now, the job of your nervous system is not productivity. The nervous system's job is protection. So if at one point in your life, slowing down wasn't safe for you, if resting meant vulnerability, if making mistakes had consequences, your system adapted. And once it learns a survival pattern, your system will repeat that pattern even when the original danger is gone or until it receives new information that safety is possible. So trauma is not always something dramatic. Sometimes it's what happened and sometimes it's what didn't happen. So for some people, trauma was an environment where they had to grow up too fast, where they had to learn how to read the room before they learned how to rest or to relax or to feel safe, where were praised for being strong but not protected for being vulnerable. For others, it was inconsistency, not knowing what version of safety you were coming home to, like stability one day, chaos the next day, and your nervous system learned to stay alert just in case. Sometimes trauma is the absence of protection, being in situations where someone should have intervened and protect you and no one did. Sometimes it's the absence of consistency where love, support, and care were unpredictable and your nervous system learned not to relax. And sometimes it's the absence of repair. Things were said, things were done, lines were crossed, trust was broken, and no one ever came back to make it right. And sometimes trauma is simply the cost of staying strong for too long, being the dependable one, the responsible one, the one who held it all together. And you did this without rest, without support, without a safe space to excel. And over time, the strength became strained, and the nervous system doesn't forget the weight that it has to carry. Now, here's what's important to understand. When trauma goes unresolved, it doesn't disappear. It lives in the nervous system, and emphasis on lives. It lives in the nervous system, not as a memory you're constantly thinking about, but as patterns your body learned in order to survive. Now, for some people, that looks like being on high alert at all times. For others, it looks like shutting down, disconnecting, or even feeling numb. And for many, it looks like operating between the two. Now, it can show up in how quickly your system shifts into alert, and how hard it is for you to rest, and how your body responds before your mind has time to catch up. And this is why trauma can feel confusing, because you may not remember what happened, but your nervous system remembers how it had to respond in a particular situation or in a moment when something happened. And the nervous system is constantly scanning the room, scanning the environment, asking one very important question: am I safe right now? Now, if the answer is no, or if the system isn't sure, it will prioritize survival over everything else, even in safe spaces. And that's why you may feel stuck even when you know better. That's why logic doesn't always work. That's why motivation can be up and down. That's why rest can feel uncomfortable instead of refreshing. Now, this isn't you being rebellious. This isn't you being lazy. It isn't some type of spiritual failure on your part. It's simply the nervous system doing exactly what it was trained to do, and that is to keep you alive. And once the nervous system learns a survival pattern, it will repeat that pattern automatically, not because you're choosing it, but because your body believes that it's necessary, again, even if in safe spaces. So this is why willpower alone doesn't work, because you cannot out-discipline a dysregulated system. You cannot shame it into safety, because shame actually increases threat. And you cannot force it into healing, because healing requires safety and not pressure. Now, regulation happens when the system learns something new, which is that the danger has passed, that support is available, and that rest no longer means risk. Now, healing is not about trying harder. It's about understanding what was disrupted and restoring order where there was once chaos, because trauma disrupts rhythm. It disrupts regulation. It disrupts our sense of timing, safety, and trust. So healing is not force. It's reestablishing what the system lost, which is steadiness, predictability, and choice. And when order is restored, the nervous system no longer has to stay on guard. And when the system can rest, change will happen naturally. So before we end, I do want to recap some of the points we went over here. Number one, which is important to remember, that trauma is not a character flaw. And many of the things you've been blaming yourself for, the inconsistency, exhaustion, the overthinking, and even shutting down, were never moral failures. They were nervous system responses. Number two, your nervous system learned how to survive. And until it learns that safety is now possible, it will continue to protect you, even when protection looks like limitation. And then finally, healing doesn't begin with trying harder. It begins with understanding what was disrupted, which is your nervous system, and restoring safety where there was once chaos. Now, before you log off, I need for you to allow your body to hear this. Nothing is wrong with you. What you're experiencing is connected to what happened to you. And healing begins with understanding. And when you stop fighting your system, healing becomes possible.
Remember this: even in the silence, God speaks. Even in the pain, He is present. You're not alone on this journey. Heaven is walking with you. Until next time, rest in the truth. that you are not what happened to you. Trauma may have marked your journey, but it doesn't get the final word. You are who He's healing you to become. Until we meet again, I'm Lisa L. Yeomans, and thank you for tuning into the Straight Out of Trauma series.